I'm Jeff York. This is a meeting of the Jericho Development Review Board. We'll call this meeting to order. We have just two items on the agenda today. We have a continuation of the preliminary review of a request by the DRB for VRMT by VRMT4 for 8-lot major subdivision at 91 Governor Peck Road. And then we have to approve the minutes from January 8th. At this point, we would then adjourn the public meeting and have a deliberative session. We will, since this is a continuation, I'm just not gonna go through the long description. People heard about interested parties before. Everybody here, I am going to ask people to be sworn in again. And before that, I will check about any ex parte communication on the part of the board on this item. Has there been any? None? None? Okay, thank you very much. So then I am going to read the swear the oath, and when I finish reading it, if you would say I do, and if everybody would make sure that they have signed in so we know who's here. And if you're online and you weren't here before, make sure that you give Chris your name and contact information so that we can establish you as part of the interested party group. So here's the oath. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Okay.
And anybody who's going to add their address as a chat box, please put it in that chat box, and that way I'll be able to get it as well as the minute taker. Thank you. Okay, Jeff, thanks.
Okay. We had continued the preliminary review based on information we had received late in terms and giving Chris enough time to go over the follow-up items. Do you want to talk about them? How do we want to proceed with these? You want to go over them?
I guess if you guys have any comments or counterpoints or things like that from what I stated, that's fine. If you want to overview the project, it's this is your chance to make the pitch. So
no, I think we appreciate that, Chris. I think the responses were received and we appreciate them. Obviously, we had get your original comments, which then we replied to, and then we're grateful to have you guys take the time to review those as well. Hopefully the DRB's had a chance to review all the staff notes as well. So on a high level, we really don't have anything additional to offer other than to ask if there's any specific criteria that you guys feel like you need more clarification on based on Chris's final responses. We'd be happy to address those, but I think the last time we were here, we felt like we had given you all the testimony and evidence that we can present to you. And then obviously the responses are trying to respond to those questions or maybe gray areas that were still out there. So I think if there's something you guys would like to have more information on, we'd be happy to address that.
One thing that we didn't get was any communication with the fire department. We haven't received anything from you guys on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have testified to and what we've said repeatedly is we've had numerous contacts with the fire department, numerous correspondence. They asked for us to meet their criteria, which we have. I think we presented that last time in terms of the road slope was the main criteria for them, the road width, and then the cul-de-sac turning circle. The last remaining request from the chief was to make sure we didn't have structures within 150 feet of each other, which we've done. So we respectfully requested to all of the advisory committees to please provide written correspondence if they had any additional comments or concerns to you folks. And if you haven't received it, I'm assuming they don't have any additional comments. But as I think we told you guys back in maybe it was September when we came in to ask for this combined review, we've reached out, and I think the advice we got from Chris and you guys was, well, if you've reached out and Some have responded. The Trails Committee provided a response, for example. But that's where we've done whatever we can to meet their concerns. And I guess my humble opinion is if they're not asking for more, then they're satisfied, but
Right.
I can't speak for them.
So I think, just for our records, if it's possible to get forward those emails and the communication, just to put in the file.
Yeah, we can
Just,
sure.
that would be good, because we have received from the Trails Committee, we have received from the Energy Committee, we have received from the Conservation Committee. There's there's not an applicable component for the Affordable Housing Committee. There really is no need for the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee, I think. So those are all the advisory committees. And so there in the Underhill Jericho Fire Department as well. So if you have communication, just so we have it in our file.
Yep, that's not a problem.
So 10 years from now, if somebody raises an issue, we got an answer.
Never happens.
Yeah, and also on the other side, we've never gotten a copy of the Energy Committee's correspondence.
It was verbal.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't know, I thought, I heard you say they emailed you something.
yeah, no, so verbally, they told me, as long as there was no prohibition with regards to potential renewables and solar, your documentation, allows for solar to be installed in the house and that sort of orientation. They said that they were fine, and that if I was good with the verbal, they were good as well. So
Okay,
I told them you guys had covered it.
love it. Thanks.
What are the closest two building envelopes to each other? What's the distance between the two closest?
I'd have to measure that, Jeff. I don't remember.
What plan do you want up, or is it?
Maybe the wastewater plan, it shows the kind of
measure it.
conceptual plans.
We're gonna do off the paper is probably best.
And again, kind of reminding you that the building envelopes that we showed, these are obviously schematic. There's nothing that's specific about the house envelope itself, other
But
than.
how it just,
Yeah,
the 150 foot
Yep.
for the fire department, is
Yep.
that defined by
they,
the separation of housing envelopes? Is that why
Yes.
you were able to say?
That's right.
Okay.
that 4-6.
Probably these ones here.
So the houses on lots 4 and 6 are the closest, and they are 150 feet apart.
So the building envelopes, one edge of the building envelope, the other edge is 150 feet.
Correct.
Okay. And obviously they wouldn't,
Yes.
who knows where they're actually going to build within them. I had a question last time about demarcation of the stream buffer
Yep.
and wetlands, is how that was going to be demarcated. Have you guys looked and said what the
I
rule
think
is there?
your request to add boulders on lots 5 and 8, I believe, we're
Yeah.
more than happy to have that as a condition
Okay,
to stipulate that we demarc that with boulders, or I think Chris said bluebird houses, or whatever works for you guys. I mean, that's fine.
and I know we had a discussion about the width of the road.
Yes.
Right.
We did.
Yeah.
24 feet.
24 feet.
Is that 20 feet with 2 foot shoulders? That would-
No, 24-foot road with 2-foot shoulders.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the fire on our curb cut plan. It shows the road design standards for the town, and then it shows the Underhill Jericho Fire Department residential criteria. So we show both places. And the town standard is 22 feet with 2-foot shoulders. But the fire department requirement for with more than 5 residences on a road is 24 feet with 2-foot shoulders. So we went with a wider road to satisfy that criteria.
Okay, that's your choice. You pick between the two.
Well, I mean, again, we
No.
think we need the fire, we went for the fire department because we rely on those guys, so
Yep. Okay.
for sure.
That's
Make it easy for them.
that one is appreciated. Thank you for the clarity.
Any other questions from the board?
One question I had, are you gonna update the plat was probably originally prepared or the research was done a while ago, have you?
This
are you gonna-
summer,
You're gonna
there's
update
one
about
update, there's a butter issue. Yeah, we'll,
I wouldn't call it an issue, it's just you gotta.
Yeah, before you file the
chase
final-
land
yeah, before you
records,
file the
because
final plan,
properties
yeah.
change every day, right?
Yeah.
we'll go through this one more time before it's recorded, obviously. You already know somebody who's doing here.
I only knew because a person contacted me a few weeks ago to see if she could enjoy our property, and she said she recently bought. I think it's 75 might be the one to the north, which is great. And I was like, yeah,
The
you
one
know,
on lot 29 Sunset is different. Lot 5 off Sunset Ridge.
Oh, down at the
I
bottom.
got it, yeah, I've got it, sir.
Yeah, anyways.
that's a different abutter too? Okay, all right, yeah, I mean, we are happy to, obviously, we want those records to be
Sell it.
accurate. You know, what are they doing?
Well, that's good enough for that, great. You think it might be here? I think it's this one. 75 is the person I talked to.
Anything else? Any other questions from the board?
Almost
Chris, do you have any other questions?
No, I really don't. Basically, the project was warned for preliminary and final. I made a recommendation to the board that traditionally, we break them in two as a preliminary and a final decision. That's what we've done before. We don't usually get a request for preliminary and final. It's the board's discretion to either combine them, as one. This project's a little different than others because it already went through a preliminary review, that expired, and they came back with a slightly, a little bit different application. But it's essentially the same. It's been reviewed. So this has had a quite a set of eyes on it. It is a very thorough submission.
And they're a little bit farther along, having completed the
Right.
wetland study and.
Right, yeah,
stormwater
they've-
approval.
Basically, a lot of the conditions that were placed on the original preliminary have now been met. So there's not a lot of question marks, because the state reviews have been done. So,
Okay,
and so it's kind of, the board has that discretion.
let me just ask if there's any public comments or questions prior to closing preliminary.
Okay, let me. If there are okay, we got Tom Barabo, would like to ask a question, so.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the CC is still in the process of having fine-tuned the wildlife crossing data. It's not been formally accepted by the select board or acted upon as far as regulatory language in the subdivision regulations. But I did want to verify one thing, and that has to do with the fencing. I just don't recall the details about whatever fencing might be constructed as part of phase one. Is there a map of where fencing might be installed?
I will, that's fine. Yeah, so Tom, we're not proposing any fencing at all.
Okay. Okay.
We're only selling lots. And then as we spoke to the DRB, if a lot purchaser wants to construct a building and a fence, they'll have to get a permit from Chris. And then obviously they'll have to adhere to all those regulations.
And I don't have them in front of me, but I believe the HOA conditions would require no more than, I think, if I have this right, I'm sorry, Tom. It's 4 foot is the max height of a fence in the wildlife crossing area. And if that's the case,
Yep, that's correct.
and that would be the max height allowed of any fence in the development.
Yeah, and I don't have that document in front of me, but there's also a minimum clearance on the bottom side of the fence. Is that also spelled out?
Yeah. And if
Okay.
not, I'll make sure to add that when town council includes that. We don't have any
Super.
issue with that.
Yeah, and
Great.
and Tom, so you know, whatever you guys are working on from a regulation standpoint is not applicable to this hearing. They've entered an application with the current regulations, so that's what it's applicable, but that still deals with a 4-foot height as well as the clearance issue that you're looking for.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so we have Ellis.
Yes, I got it. Hi, Wayne, my name is Wayne and I live on Sunset Ridge, and I just have some questions about the the access from your cul-de-sac on common land through what's common land to our cul-de-sac. And it doesn't show on the map, but if you look to the right side of the map of your property, you can see the topography bars, and you can tell going down to that one stream there, it's quite steep. And at the side of Sunset Ridge at the cul-de-sac, it's also extremely steep. And I'm just wondering, I don't want to sound like the old guy that says you kids get off my lawn, but I'm just wondering if it's reasonable that people would, from the Trails Committee, would think that that was an access because, number one, the bus barely fits around our cul-de-sac. The garbage truck barely fits around. So if anyone thought, I had talked to Chris Flynn, he said it's a public road. And I guess I just wanted to raise the idea that if it's a public road, it really has no access for parking. And that once you do access that common land, assuming we were happy with that, it's going to be an attractive nuisance. It's extremely steep. And I think as well as the Acorn Ridge guys know, this territory was really somehow eroded years and years, thousands of years ago by water and sand. And so I guess I just, for the commission, I was wondering about this, that the Trails Committee thought it was a good idea to try to connect our common lands together. And I was just wondering what the position of the DRB was, if that's not a safe access from our property.
Well, if you want me to answer from our side, and then you can answer, Chris?
Why don't you go ahead, Joe, and I can tell.
So Wayne, appreciate that question. And as we talked about last time we were here, yes, the reason we put in this right of way was as a courtesy to the Trails Committee, because they are, I think, embarking on an effort to create a network of trails for the community. And their goal and request of us was to have us accommodate connectivity for their trails network. So the simple offer from us was, we have an upper road and we have a lower road. The lower road goes all the way through our property to Richmond, to Dave Villeneuve's property to the south of us. And our upper road terminates at a cul-de-sac, which, as we told the fire department and the DRB, we actually are making it 10 feet bigger in diameter than what the fire department requires. They require 90 foot and we're building 100 foot. But in terms of the access to Sunset Ridge, yeah, we were happy to accommodate it on our property, but if you guys don't want it, then, I mean, I think that's something that you guys can talk about with the Trails Committee, but I think we're mountain bikers and hikers, some terrain probably doesn't bother those guys, my humble opinion, but that's why we did it. I mean, we wanted to try to provide connectivity for the Trails Committee and
there is nothing actually proposed. It's just reserved in the event.
yeah, there's nothing
Trail ever gets
constructed,
built,
right?
nothing constructed.
It's just a right of way.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the two of us could be entangled if somebody said, well, I was trying to get down to Acorn Ridge and I went off this cliff off of Sunset Ridge. I mean, is there some liability thing that we would both have to be entangled in or something, or?
It's very clear. Oh, cool. Like Chris saying, he's got.
Wayne, rule 1 is you sue everybody, right? So you got an issue, so.
Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm half deaf, so can you repeat it?
What, can you hear me, Wayne?
Yeah, I can. There was just some other noise and I only have one ear.
All right, yeah. So rule 1, you know, basically is if there's an issue, you sue everybody. And that's not, I mean, and that's, in this case here, there's an easement being proposed to an abutting property. If there is no easement for travel on that abutting property, then anybody on that property would be trespassing.
Okay.
And so with regards to a public road, we don't have parking ordinances on public roads, so people can park on public roads. If that's something that a neighborhood doesn't want, or they want changed, they need to go to the select board for those changes. Those are all sort of purviews outside the DRB as well as outside this application request. What this applicant's doing is sort of saying, hey, we're gonna create a 50-foot right of way on this easement area for, non-motorized traffic. But we can only control from this point that we own to this point here. That's all that's being proposed. Anything that's beyond that, if it doesn't exist or it's not allowed, then it's a nice offer, but it's only halfway to fruition for the end. So,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's a real nice offer, and I'd be happy to accommodate it if there was a flat way to get there from us, but yeah. And I was just wondering about the Trails Committee. So should I talk to them next to just let them know that the access is not that reasonable from our side, or what?
so I think one you can too. What I would do, Wayne, is send me an email and I will send you the Trails Committee comments with regards to this application. And that will give you at least a reference point from what they were looking at and talked about.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wayne.
Um,
Anybody else with their hand up? Okay, going once. Twice. I guess that's it.
okay, so we'll go ahead and close the preliminary. And this, since nothing really came up, but it's sort of a formality, I think we need to go through the final as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
So why don't you? All right, so basically the board finds that basically we're closing the preliminary hearing. The project's been warned for preliminary and final, so you're gonna render one decision.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Make a
So,
motion.
I'll make the motion to close the preliminary, and we have to reference the final in that.
So basically, you're gonna, basically what you do is make a motion to close, but as the project's been warned preliminary and final, and the board will render a decision, based on what the applicants asked for.
So move.
okay,
You a second? Okay.
No
Okay,
change for us.
you got to vote.
aye.
Aye. Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
I'm gone till the 10th of February, so you'll probably get something from me after the 10th.
Great, that's fine.
Decision
Yeah,
was.
where you going? Somewhere good?
Hoping.
Yeah, Crested Butte.
Oh, well, it's not warm, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's not warm. There's not much.
Is it really? They have trouble out there?
No,
That's too bad.
They're a lot smaller than the rest.
Well, that was a long process, but we really appreciate you guys going through the town and
Yeah.
a lot of work for you guys.
Any
Well,
questions?
we'll miss you.
Whatever you need. Yeah, no, it's a process and it's great. So we appreciate your time and consideration for sure.
So the minutes that I sent, the minutes that I originally sent have been changed. I added others present. I added David and Brenda Villeneuve. Because they were there also at the end of the public comment period. I basically added that David and Brenda raised their hand to participate, but there were technical issues, so they weren't able to. And just so that there was record that they were trying to participate and be part of the process. So,
But otherwise, this is the same.
yeah, otherwise, those were the only.
In that case, I'll make a motion that the minutes be approved.
I'll second it. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, public, that concludes the public hearing. I'm going to be stopping the recording. And you can remove yourselves, please. Or I will have to. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Aaron.